Welcome to the Teaching Bites podcast. Here are your hosts, Fred and Sharon Jaravada.
Hi, everyone. My name is Fred Jaravada, and welcome to the Teaching Bites show, where we connect you with some amazing people and some great advice to take your teaching to the next level. Today, I have a special guest. He's coming from the East Coast. We have Mr. Patrick Rogers. And I have a connection with Patrick that we know the same people. I met him, I think, last year. Was it Patrick last year?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, last year I met him. He came out here to San Francisco with a bunch of our friends, and I got to know him there, and it's a very cool thing. Especially, he is a school teacher. Now, Patrick teaches first grade, and he does something really special with his kids. And now he is doing a lot of making projects, in particular with 3D printing. I'm going to turn it over to Patrick right now, and I'm going to give him the chance to tell his story and how you came to this point in the universe and time. Patrick, welcome.
Hey, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Well, I've been teaching now in public school for my sixth year, actually. I've taught high school, I've taught middle school, eighth grade, and I've taught first grade now. This is my third year teaching first grade. And before I taught, I was serving in the Marine Corps straight out of high school. And so I started my public service adventure there, I guess. And I wanted to get out and do it in a different way, kind of. So I have always been sort of a curious guy, and I've always been a hands-on guy, so I kind of try to bring that into my teaching quite a bit whenever possible, although I didn't really know it would end up being with the making side of it. That's kind of a more semi-recent thing for me, but I'm really excited about it. It's done wonders for the kids and everybody that I teach it to. So.
Right, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right, so you served in the Marines. How long did you serve with the Marines?
I did 4 years straight out of high school. It was a really good experience. I learned a lot, grew up a little bit, and it paid for my teaching degrees, so
awesome.
I can't really lose. Yeah.
Now, with your experience with the Marines, what do you bring from the Marines that you learned there to your teaching experience?
Yeah, with my job, it doesn't really directly relate, but just the whole concept of like leadership, I think, is
that's what the
Marines.
That's what the Marines. I know they really teach you to be leaders.
They do,
right?
They do. Even at like a small level, so if you're still lower ranked, you still have the opportunity to practice your leadership because you might lead a group that are similar or slightly lower ranked than you. Mm-hmm. So you really and then the whole thing about like the Marine Corps getting it's very transient, right? So you get to see a lot of different leadership styles, even if you don't move. I mean, you might have a sergeant or a staff sergeant that are there in your unit for 3 weeks. They're your leader, and then they move. And then a new one comes for 2 months, and then they move. So, like, it's constant churning. But you really get to see what style of leadership works and what style of leadership doesn't work. And you get to see a lot of different examples of it. So I think just seeing that kind of helped me understand what type of leader that I might want to be even at a young age.
That's cool. Now, do you see yourself going up the ranks in the teaching world, going to administration, do you think?
That's something that I have never ever desired to do at all.
Good for you.
At all.
Good for you.
I mean, I see a few good teachers here and there that just are really eager to get into administration, and then I kind of regret seeing that sometimes because although we do need good administrators, like don't get me wrong, administration makes a huge impact on a building. But it just saddens me kind of to see teachers move out of the classroom when I know they do so much good for so many students year after year. I wish more of them would stick inside of the classroom sometimes, but yeah. I won't. I don't want that pressure. I don't want that job.
Right.
That's not for me. Yeah.
I think I'm with you too. I don't really want that the pressure and the stress that goes with that. Right.
Yeah, I know. It does. Like I mean, once in a while, I'll see them having fun with a group of kids, like especially in like kindergarten or first grade. They'll come in and they'll get all the hugs, and like you see their like the principal's face light up.
Yeah.
But most of the time, they just kind of look, and I understand why, but they look downtrodden. Like they just look so tired all the time, and all they have to do is like discipline and stuff like that. And oh man, it's just I don't want to do that. There's no way.
Good for you.
Yeah.
All right. So give us a real quick tip of how you handle classroom management with your students.
Yeah, sure. My classroom, I make sure that we do a lot of procedures, particularly during the first couple of weeks. And when I say we do a lot of procedures, like that's not just like a thing I say. Like we don't do a whole lot of actual work, but we do a lot of practice on procedures. But if I invest a little extra time at the beginning, I get those hours back absolutely. Come later in the year. Like by December, my class runs like clockwork, and I know that kind of sounds like a long time. And we do work before December, obviously. Yeah. But by December, I've done so much procedure and expectations and things like that my classroom knows exactly how to behave at all times. And by that time, I get almost as much time as I need to serve everybody in my classroom. So, right. I take my time with procedures.
Is there a difference? Tell us the difference between your high school, middle school, and the first graders you do.
Yeah, huge difference, but yet not as much as somebody might think. I mean, high schoolers kind of are already formed. I taught juniors and seniors mostly, and they're kind of already their own person.
17, 18-year-olds, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, at this time, I was only, like 26 or so.
You're not much younger than them. I mean, much older than them.
Right. Right. Yeah, it was an interesting dynamic, and they I never had behavior problems there for sure, but it was a little frustrating. I thought I wanted to teach high school or older kids at first, but once I got there and discovered they weren't as malleable as what I thought they might be, then it became a little kind of a turnoff for me because I didn't want to teach kids that kind of already knew what they were doing. I mean, some of them were already taking college courses, and then the sort of apathetic ones were just not going to do what they were supposed to do at times, and it got a little frustrating because they were already so old. I mean, I kind of felt at a loss. I only had like 1 year with them, and or less sometimes, because we would switch halfway through the school year to new students, like block scheduling, and it just it wasn't my thing, I guess. With that age, middle school was a lot different. It was a lot better. The kids were still impressionable, were more malleable, and it was some of the best teaching moments that I had for sure, and some of the worst. So, yeah.
Okay, with the younger kids, with the first graders now, this is your third year? The third year teaching first grade?
Third year teaching first grade, yeah.
So, would you say this is your favorite year, or your favorite school age year, or?
Between this and middle school, I don't know which I like better. I like them both quite a bit, but I really love first grade. The stress is less. Well, it's different stress, but it's less stress overall in the younger grades. You're not so beholden to the administrative sort of like oversight of like end of the year testing. Although they do come in and monitor you and make sure that you do the right thing. By around April, they kind of leave the lower grades alone, and that's when I can do more creative teaching anyways, when the administration's not sort of pressuring me to stick on. But I mean, in 8th grade, by April, they were like hounding all the teachers to do so much remediation. It was almost like removing a lot of teaching from your class. They were just so worried about data that they wanted all those French students to be pushed forward, and they kind of mandated that we use our time to do that, which took a lot of creative control away, which I don't like, of course. So
now, okay, let's focus in on this creative focus that you have with your students now. Tell us about your cool project happening that you're doing with your kids.
Yeah, absolutely. So last school year, I brought a 3D printer into my classroom. I was lucky enough to have a couple on deck at my school.
Now, why did you do that? Why did you want a 3D printer?
Well, honestly, it began with like a budding curiosity of my own, and that was it was something I had read a few articles about and kind of seen the implications of it in a lot of different fields of study, and I just kind of really got curious about them, and there was a PD at my school about 3D printing that I was allowed to go to, and it really just blew my mind. just like the sort of potential to create nearly anything, as long as you're creative enough to think of something. Like, you can literally create anything with these, and that potential right there just really, it literally blew my mind. Like, I mean, I came home that night and I was like, I need to get one of these in my classroom. I need to get one of these at my house. I need to get one of these. And like, I mean, it just went from there. Like, it really got me excited.
Good, cool.
Yeah.
All right. So what projects? How did you introduce this to your curriculum? How did you do that? How did you bring it integrated into your teaching? I think a lot of teachers they hear about 3D printing, but they're not sure how they can incorporate it, how they integrate it, especially with the younger kids.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I hear this all the time. I do professional development now for different schools and groups of teachers that basically say what you just said. And I hear it even around my building, especially last year when I first was kind of starting to integrate it. Everybody's like, well, what do you use it for? Right. And it's one of those products that are kind of, there's a few products that way. It's, if they don't really have a single use, it's hard for people to grasp what the function of it is or what it could potentially be. Right? You get a calculator, you know it's to calculate. You know, a pencil's to write, but a 3D printer doesn't specifically do anything. So it's hard for people to grasp it. Anyway, this is the question that I get asked a lot, and it's really useful for, of course, like the robotics teachers who can print out robotics parts, or if you're already teaching a module in high school on computer programming or 3D modeling. I mean, they're obviously useful to those teachers. But those teachers already know how to use them because they've been using them and they're on the cutting edge anyway. So like the struggle is to integrate it into our curriculum. And I've begun to actually write some curriculum that corresponds that correlates state standards to using a 3D printer. So nice. in my classroom actually, we last year I introduced it to them, kind of showing them the novel side of it so they can get excited about it. Trinkets and prizes and manipulatives for math we use to count and things like that were kind of how I first started it with the kids. And then we moved more towards actually making useful objects. We did like our sight words, and I had the kids 3D model like little placards with sight words and alphabet tiles on them. They're like templates that we used last year that make snap together bracelets, and so I had a couple sets of those in my classroom, and they could, if they're having trouble, for example, some of my struggling students struggle with their Dolch sight words, and I could put it on their wrist, and they could use it and carry it around all day with them. Nice. Stuff like that, and that's pretty simple stuff. But I started out with that.
You're making it tangible, it seems, right?
Yeah, and I think that this is kind of like the little gateway to kind of 3D printing is, you know, if you need like 10 frames, you can easily print them and use them. And if you need, I've done things with fractions where I print out like a triangle and then I print out triangle cut in two, and they can kind of like visually see what they're doing. So these are basically making manipulatives for the classroom. But they work great, and I think even that alone is worth having a 3D printer in your classroom just to spark the curiosity and use those things. But it really doesn't get out into the heart of 3D printing, I don't think. When the heart of it is problem solving and being able to use it in such a way that the children are actually improving quality of life through 3D printing and inventing through 3D printing and solving a problem that I might suggest through 3D printing, which is what I've been doing a lot when I teach like a teen and tween class for 3D modeling. I teach the basics, and then I always present like a problem for them to solve for it that's actually like, you know, realistic and relevant.
So how do you so the kids are designing the object, is that right?
Yeah, they're designing the object. It's possible to download objects that are pre-made, but I have a program that I've been I'm part of the company actually.
What's the name of the company?
It's ScratchyCAD. SCRA, ScratchyCAD, and we have a website, scratchycad.com, and it teaches block-based programming, and it kind of integrates coding along with 3D modeling, because you use like parametric blocks to code your items that you want to do.
So it looks like Scratch. Is it based on
Yeah,
Scratch?
it's based off of a program like Scratch.
Okay.
Where you have drag and drop blocks and things like that.
What's the website?
It's scratchycad.com is our website. Yeah, you can. It's free to try out right now. We're in like an alpha version, a late alpha stage right now.
Okay.
But it works great already, and it's going to get better. But I use this tool with anybody from adults all the way down through first grade can definitely use it. So it really makes it accessible to a lot of people. And it's been working great. And I'll give you an example of some problem solving stuff that I've been working with. One of the lessons that I made was a math based lesson that was for our standard of we call it SOLs in Virginia. It was a SOL that was for fractions, and I had the students model a Lego style block inside of there with like the little nubs coming off the top and everything. And I told them that the whole Lego, what I wanted them to do was a Lego with 4 nubs on top. And then I asked them to also model and the fractions of a half of that and a quarter of that. And so they were able to actually model them, and then we printed them, and they also were able to use those as manipulatives in class. So they kind of made their own models and manipulated them in that way. We've also got projects that I've designed for like older groups that I've done with my not my classroom, but my students that are tweens and preteens and teens at other venues. I present them with like problems such as our classroom needs a storage area that will fit a calculator, pencils, and erasers in it. And I gave them the dimensions of that area, and I told them how many students were in the class, and they basically had to use like geometry principles and measurement. And it really is a kind of like a culmination of different skills they might learn. And then they had to like physically measure the area, sketch out a diagram, and then we modeled and printed one of each of their designs, and then whichever one kind of worked the best is actually usable in the classroom. So that's like an example of problem solving with a 3D printing, and using how many different SOLs or standards of learning, whatever they're called in the different states. I know we all have different names, but it's using a lot of different ones. So it's really great, and that's when I think 3D printing really shines, is when you're actually using the printer to solve problems, and not just printing out stuff. Yeah.
There's a purpose to it, right?
Absolutely, a purpose to it, and it aligns with curriculum, and it's you can even assess the students through it.
Now, how do you figure that out? How do you, for the teachers out there, how can they figure out to do that, to marry it to integrate it into the integrated learning, what you just said? Where did you get that idea from?
Well, I think that this is like a 2-part answer here, because I know a lot of teachers don't have time. I'm not going to say they don't want to, but they don't have time to sit and say, well, I need to make a 3D printer or a 3D modeling lesson for every single standard and every subject that they do. So like, we understand that. Like, I completely get that. And there's not a whole lot of resources available either. You'll see some lesson plans that kind of use a 3D printer in them, but it's hard to integrate. I'm not going to lie, it's hard. It does take creativity. It does take kind of the desire to want to use it. It takes partnering with other people who are interested in it and who can generate ideas with you, brainstorming sessions. But my company and I are actually doing some curriculum creation that will hopefully alleviate that problem as well. So we're going to be offering training for teachers and lesson plans with student guides, teacher guides, and even assessments.
Oh, that's awesome!
That are correlated to Common Core standards and different state standards.
Okay.
So we're trying to take some of that legwork out, because we always see 3D printers in buildings like everywhere we go, and they're gathering dust. Quite frankly, they are, and so we are trying to take that legwork out if we can.
Right. Yeah. But you guys are trying to solve a very popular, very interesting problem. It does. We have 3D printers in our school also, and it does take time. Luckily, I have a faculty. I work with 4 different faculties, so I can contact and collaborate with other teachers. I'm lucky enough to do that. And I think what you said is very important, that they need. You can't do it by yourself. If you can do it by yourself, great. But it's so
you have to be
easier.
a certain type of teacher to do it by yourself. Like I kind of started by myself, but like I really had that drive and that desire to make it work, right? But not everybody has that, because there's so much other stuff to worry about in your teaching days. So like you said, if you have those other people that have already kind of done some of the legwork to collaborate with, and it just makes it a lot easier. Plus, 3D printers aren't the world's easiest things to use, period. You know, and that's a reality of it. We know that. Yeah. And that's just something about them. But it's worth it, is the point. Like, I mean,
it's worth it.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so from your own process of the making, in general, in making and all that, what's the biggest challenge? Maybe in making it, but also in teaching, integrating all this. What's your biggest challenge with this?
Initially, it was the same as everybody else, when just basically trying to integrate the 3D printer into the curriculum. And I always have, because I do quite a bit of creative stuff and off the cuff and off the wall type of lessons, but like it's always the fear that I hope no administrators are listening to this podcast, man, because I keep talking bad about them. But
that's okay. They're not. But if you're an admin, please fast forward right now.
No. It's just the whole fear that and it's actually not the administrator's fault, because I know they have people breathing down their necks, but it's the fact that like I'll be doing something that to me is relevant and to me has an end goal in mind, but may not be completely evident to an administrator walking in, even though it is SOL correlated down the line. Like, just trying to make sure that I'm using time is precious in the classroom, so using my time wisely enough and making it relevant to them, and not like wasting their time trying to do the 3D printing stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I just I don't want an administrator to walk in and say, "Why are you doing this? Like, this seems like hobby teaching," or whatever it is that they might call it. You know what I mean? Right. That was a big struggle at the beginning too. Luckily, I get good scores on all my stuff, and so the administration doesn't like bother me very much. But like, I have to, like, literally last week, I had my 3D printer running in my classroom like every day, just to kind of get the kids trained to having that low hum of it behind them, so they're not like distracted by it. And then like I'm teaching them how to model little by little on the screen with me showing them how to do it, so that way when we get to the parts where we're actually going to use it more, they're already ready to rock and ready to go. And I don't have to take like 3 days to teach them how to model, right, when modeling isn't really part of first grade curriculum, right? So I'm sure an administrator would be fine walking in if they were modeling something to do with fractions or something to do with the social studies. But like me just teaching modeling, like, you know, that's kind of shaky. So just making sure it's within curriculum standards, obviously.
Cool. Yeah. Okay, so how can a teacher get a 3D printer if they don't have the funds? What's your advice?
3D printers are expensive. They range now from like $250 for a cheap kind of Chinese import, up to hundreds of thousands of dollars for these like amazing industrial machines. But you know, you can get one for around $1,000. And so if you don't have the like obviously if you have a passion for it like I do, you can go out and buy your own. But that's like really not I don't think most teachers are going to go out and buy their own. Donors Choose is a place that you can pretty much get anything for your classroom within reason. You can go on Amazon through it and like order a $300 or $400 kit and hope to get it funded, but that kind of depends on your personal network. The Donors Choose is all dependent on the teacher and how well they promote their stuff and who they get it out to and who shares it. Facebook is a great way to sort of get projects out. I've gotten several projects funded on Donors Choose myself. Grant writing. I've gotten a couple grants. Last year I had an agricultural grant get approved for our classroom garden, which we, by the way, 3D print tools and stuff to use.
That's awesome.
Garden. And so I got that last year, and I had one more a couple years ago for some tech in my classroom too. So grant writing, like the more you do, the better you get at it, essentially. I didn't get like my first, I don't know how many grants. I kept writing them anyway. And eventually I got my last 2. So, I mean, maybe I'm just getting better at writing them. So, grant writing and donors choose, I guess. That's my 2 personal recommendations.
Very good. Now, how about the model or make and model of the 3D printer that you like, or you suggest the teachers to get?
Yeah, in my classroom, I have a MakerMex MM1. It's really nice. We've got a few in our building. It's modular, so in other words, like if you want a single nozzle on it, single extruder on it, you can have that. If you have something more complex that you need a dual extruder for, you can do that. And you can even do paste extruding, which kind of involves do like melted chocolate, pastas.
That's awesome.
Play-Doh. You can do like Play-Doh modeling on it. Yeah. And it even has a light duty CNC head on it.
Oh, okay.
So it's pretty lightweight. So it's not going to do a whole lot of big stuff, but you can engrave on it.
Yeah.
And so like I haven't used most of those functions yet, but at least they're there if I do want to head in that direction. I think they're even coming out with like a laser engraving head for it.
Oh, wow, okay.
So like, that would be amazing if I could get one of those in my classroom. But the good thing is that the printer hardware does all of that together.
Now, how much is that?
I think it runs close to $2,000. They have a smaller model that runs about $1,000. That's not modular.
How much are the filaments?
This because here's another frustration that I hear a lot. A lot of printer companies are very proprietary, and so like it's like if you buy like a
MakerBot,
the MakerBot, or like an Epson regular printer, you have to buy Epson cartridges forever. And then they can charge whatever they want for them. Yeah, so it's pretty bad. So MakerMex is open source, and
awesome.
So you can actually, if you break a part, you can print a part. They have it all on their GitHub. And so there's really nothing proprietary about it. I can buy my filament straight from. I get mine from my school, most for the ones at school. But if I don't, then I can buy it off Amazon or eBay for like a quarter or a third of the price that you get proprietary filament for. We're talking like $20 or thereabouts, or a kilogram, which is enough for a lot of projects. Yeah, definitely.
Now, how do you print? Here's my when I do printing, 3D printing, my biggest thing is the time factor of how each print takes a while.
Yeah.
It takes a while, right?
Yeah, you definitely have to, just like planning for anything else, you have to plan for the time it allows. We usually will model and then we'll print overnight. Most of our models don't last more than 12, 13 hours.
Okay.
So, one of the teachers I did some PD with this summer had some frustrations with that. She was like, I want to be able to model something and then print and then use it for the rest of class. And I told her that's not really wise when it comes to 3D printing. You're going to have to make something, model it, set it to print, which the kids can do themselves, by the way, starting as young as like first grade, and then move on to something else until the next day.
Right.
And so it just takes careful planning, but you can't expect to use the things they model right away, which can be a frustration for some people, I guess, if they expect like right now. But it's not bad for the kids. Delayed gratification, it's fine. It's a good lesson.
You're gonna be patient. You gotta learn to be patient, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so there's something coming up that you are going to be part of. Something with the New York World Maker Faire coming up.
Yes, I'm very excited. We're going up there the first week of October. So I've been working with ScratchyCAD myself. I've been creating curriculum for them, both for just straight 3D modeling classes that we do, and then also for creating curriculum for the everyday school teacher that wants to use 3D printing but just doesn't have the time to create it, to create the lessons, I mean. So I'm doing the whole kindergarten through like 8th grade is what I've been focusing on, and every single discipline, math, reading, science, social studies.
Wow. Okay.
So I've been doing creative content with them, and then I've also been teaching a lot of the classes locally for them, as far as PD for teachers and as far as 3D modeling for kids, for teens, tweens, children, and everything. But we are taking our our program, which is Scratchy CAD, and we're going to present the software at the World Maker Faire in New York. So Scratchy CAD is visual programming based, meaning you're going to drag manipulatives and change their values for the. It's like a block based programming, so you change values in order to manipulate the stuff, and it creates not only the 3D model, but it also creates the JavaScript right there for you. So if you want to take that JavaScript and kind of insert it into a website or anywhere else that you want to insert it, you can do that. We're really pushing creative coding with it rather than like function-based coding or like So if you're going to model something just for you want to model a door like a cabinet doorknob just so you can replace your old one, like that's good, but we're trying to push like the creative side of it, where we're actually doing stuff that's artistic and doing stuff that kind of you have your own twist on and everything. So we're not so much in the business of like teaching the kids how to model something specific, but here's the tools, here's how you use it, now you make something that would solve this, or you make something that fits in these parameters but is still your own creation. And it's been really successful. I mean, every workshop we've done has been great.
That's great.
And has good results. And we're pretty unique with it because not only does it do just 3D modeling and for 3D printers, but we have integrated features. So for game design,
okay,
like simple video game design, all the way up to more advanced stuff. If you learn more, we have everybody's into the VR headsets. You can actually make virtual reality worlds with this. You can also you can program in functions like gravity and light and things like that.
Playing with the physics of things,
the physics of it and everything inside of this program, and that's available on some programs, but it's not as, those are more like advanced programs that people would use. We've kind of made it accessible because it's block based programming. A lot of the kids are more familiar with it, and so they're able to access it. Yeah. And where it wasn't accessible before. So you can also do 3D animations in it, and animate whatever you model. So it's really powerful. It's powerful stuff, and I've taught this stuff to children, and that have never 3D modeled before. They're just rolling through it.
Okay, that's cool. So I'm gonna get my kids get to use that. Okay, Scratchy CAD.
You should, yeah.
.com, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're coming out. We just did a press release a couple days ago, so that came out, and then we're also going to be doing. I've done a couple already. They're already in production, like tutorials. So that way, if you don't understand how to use it or see it right away, you can just watch a few tutorials and you get on your way. That's but awesome. Yeah, we're gonna be at Maker Faire. We're actually, if anybody is in the East Coast or New York area, we're actually gonna be giving away a printer at Maker Faire. So we're gonna
awesome.
have we're gonna give away one working 3D printer already assembled, and we're gonna do a creative coding challenge.
When is the Maker Faire?
It's October 2nd. It's the first weekend of October. I think it's October 2nd and 3rd, or is it 3rd and 4th? I have to look at a calendar.
Okay. All right, we'll have it in the show notes. That'll be cool.
Yeah. And so really they're going to have like a 20-minute time limit to do a creative coding challenge to solve a problem. We'll have the tutorials up for them, and we'll be working with people teaching them how to use it, and then we're going to judge it based upon like a rubric, of course, because I'm a teacher. They're like, "Well, just judge it." I'm like, "No, we have to have a rubric, and we have to have like everything set up so it's fair." And
right.
Yeah,
equity.
And, yes, it has to be equitable. We have to blind the names and make sure we don't pick our favorite person. Yeah. So we're gonna give away a printer, man. It's really exciting. We hope to generate a lot of interest. We're actually doing a Kickstarter as well, and we're launching our Kickstarter like right before we go up there. The Kickstarter is going to allow us to finish making the curriculum stuff. It's going to allow us to finalize all the professional development programs that we're doing. We're actually going to we've done several already locally, but we're going to be available to like travel around and
that's awesome.
And get our software out, but teach people how to use it and integrate it in their classroom. And we're just going to have everything available. As an educator, I'm excited about it because it solves the main problem that I see. We have a printer, we don't know what to do with it. We have a printer, we want to use it, we don't know how.
Right.
We have a printer. It frustrated us. It got clogged. What do we do? Like, we can provide all those services to people and curriculum, whether it's integrating it into regular curriculum or you want to have like a specific 3D modeling and printing class and don't know how to teach it. Like, we have that. So it's exciting for me to actually see 3D printers actually being used, for a good purpose, and we're going to make it accessible. It's going to be great.
That is great. All right, so do you guys have a Kickstarter URL, website address yet, or the name of the project yet?
Yeah, it's gonna be Scratchy Cat on there as well. And so it's not live yet. We were gonna wait till like right before Maker Faire to have it go live.
Well, make sure you share that link with me so I can put it in the show notes so that people can go and check it out.
Yeah, I'm positive they're gonna be able to go on Kickstarter and search for it or whatever. It's Scratchy Cat spelled just as SCRATCHYCAD.com. But it probably won't have the .com in there. I guess it'll just be Scratchy Cat. But yeah, we're excited. We hope to get funded. We want to just plus we got to finish our software. It'll give us a little bit of budget to finish our software. And if anybody wants to purchase like training for their school, that's a great way to do it, is just through the Kickstarter, because you can support the program and you can also you can basically purchase training modules for any of the things, whether it's like video game design, 3D world design, right through the Kickstarter, and then you're basically purchasing the professional development or the training right there. So
Patrick, if a teacher has a question, can they contact you?
Absolutely, yeah. They can go to scratchycat.com, and there is a help function there if you need and there's a forum there and FAQ there and everything basically that you need to know there. If you have questions about like integrating 3D printing in your classroom, you don't know what to do, you want to try it, you don't believe that it'll work in your classroom, whatever it is, they can definitely contact me. And if they're interested in any of the products, like for Scratchy Cat, they can contact me too. I can give my email. You want to put it on here to the show notes, or what do you want to do?
Yeah, you can do both. Can you share it right now?
Yeah, I can give my email. It's Patrick D. PR, that's Delta Papa Romeo, @gmail.com, and they can email me there at any time. Yeah.
Very cool. Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. I'm very impressed with what you're doing, and you're doing amazing things, and I'm
We're
glad.
Too.
I'm glad you are trying to solve this problem about the 3D printers, because I do see a lot of 3D printers out there. They're not being used because there's a lot of confusion, lots of misconceptions of what it can do or what it can't do, and so on.
Yeah, I think with a little teacher education and training and practice, I think teachers can really basically learn to take ownership of it. And once they see a couple of designs and a couple of lessons, I think they can kind of like unlock essentially the usage of it. I think they can. I did, and I've seen other teachers do it. And so, I think anybody could do it if they desire to. It's worth it. It's definitely worth it.
It's worth it. And yes, worth it. All right, so Patrick, we only have a couple more minutes to be with you right now. I'm going to run down these lightning round questions with you, okay?
All right, I'm getting nervous now.
All right, I like that. Okay, so give us one time hack that you do in your classroom that other teachers can do also.
Yeah, okay, time hack for me would definitely be over prepare your students and overtrain them on every single procedure that you ever do, because by December you'll get all that time back and plus some.
Nice.
That's my time hack, man. I get so much small group time at the middle towards the end of the year that it's ridiculous. I get awesome. I get to do it. Yeah. Okay. It's lightning round. Sorry. Quick round.
All right. Favorite book.
My favorite book. This is the one that inspired me to teach. Believe it or not, it was called No More Prisons, and it was by a graffiti artist right there from San Francisco, where you're at, William Upsky Wimsatt. It's an inspiring book. It's very short too.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Gotta check that out. Put that on the show notes. Also, favorite movie.
Oh man, favorite movie. The movie I really liked recently that I watched was Motorcycle Diaries. I know it's the older one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it shows like the backstory of Che Guevara. Yeah, that movie, like I was amazed. I really liked it a lot. I don't know what it was about it, but I dug it.
Favorite app.
My favorite app to use in the classroom for sure, it's Remind. Have you guys used it?
I dabbled in a little bit. Yeah.
I love it. I've been pushing it with my parents. Yeah. It allows me so much more contact with my parents. I just keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, making sure they subscribe.
So, can you tell us what Remind is for the listeners who don't know what Remind is?
Yeah, Remind. Okay, because everybody uses their phone all the time. Like email is almost irrelevant at this day and age. It seems like, but yeah, everybody texts and everything. So like with Remind, the parents can safely, securely, privately subscribe to a list that basically whatever you type into your phone and send out, it's like a small mass mailing for your parents. And they never see your phone number. You never really even see their phone number. And you can't communicate with any children on there. Like it says so. So if you teach high school, you can only communicate with their parents. But you can also have two-way conversations. So if you want to message them a private note, you can, or same for them. But it's all archived. It's all safe. It's all private. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's
a good
great
app.
for communication. It is. I love it.
Okay, so that's done with the lightning round. Here's my last question for you. All right, it's a big one for our teachers. What's your best advice to teachers?
I learned this too. I think I learned it the hard way. I think somebody told me the same thing. But when you try to integrate something new in your classroom, you can't expect it to work. You got to expect some failure with it. And it's okay, because if you really want it to work, whether it's a new procedure, a new technology piece, a new way of doing math, or like daily 3 or daily 5 and reading or something like that, you got to stick with the process, and you got to really, really just be patient with it. Your kids sometimes act crazy at the very beginning. That's because you're learning how to use it. But I think if they stick with the process of anything they want to integrate in their classroom, it really pays dividends. I hate to see a teacher try a new technique one time and then they're like, oh, that didn't work, and they throw it out of the window. It's frustrating for me because I know these things sometimes work, and I'll be trying to help out one of my mentees or whatever it is, and they just don't want to do it because it failed so miserably the first time they did it. But you can't expect the children to be able to do it right the first time. You wouldn't expect that for math or reading or any other subject area, right? So why would you expect them to be able to do like even something as simple as group work the first time? You know, they have to be trained on how to do it, and if you stick with it and train them, they'll respond for sure. I was told that every time you try to integrate something, it makes you a little bit of a worse teacher for a couple weeks. You know, so it's just to be expected because you have to learn how to use it in your classroom, and then after that, you'll make a jump and you'll be a better teacher for it. But expect to be a worse teacher just for a little bit when you integrate something new, and it's okay for that to happen, I think.
No, I like that. That's good. Very good advice. Yeah. All right, Patrick, we're at the end now. All right, so give a shout out to some people you want to give a shout out to on this podcast. Yeah, totally. Thank you to all of my good teachers that I've ever had that inspired me to do what I was, I guess, meant to do. And everybody at Scratchy CAD that we've been working with, and MakerMex as well for the 3D printers being awesome. And I guess that's it. All right. Yeah. Very cool. And thank you for having me on and letting me share. I hope I was useful to some people. So. Yeah, very useful. Very useful. Yeah. All right. So all those people listening in right now, please go visit if you are in the area of the World Maker Faire in New York City. Please check out Patrick Rogers. He'll be there. I'll have the link out there for you guys to click on so you can find him exactly where he's going to be and when. And check out scratchycad.com. I'm going to be using it. I'm going to try that out. I'm going to be a worse teacher for a little bit, and then, hopefully I will get better. And I know it will get better. All right? Yeah, so, definitely. Check it out. And register on ScratchyCAD for updates and stuff. We don't put out no junk. We put out really, really useful tidbits and stuff for them to use. So register, check it out. We always want feedback. If you think something sucks on it, tell me so I can fix it, right? There you go. Exactly. Patrick, thank you so much, sir, for joining us on this show. We really appreciate it. Thanks, Fred. All right. All right, buddy. I'll talk to you later. All right. Bye. See ya. Thank you for listening to the Teaching Bites podcast at www.teachingbites.com.